change.
Equal representation.
This country is not the same.
Hi, my name is Marta.
Hi, I'm Zoe Vitelli. I'm 21.
I wish that there were more modern updates to the Constitution so that it could better reflect our current voices.
Represent modernization as
I believe one constitution I would take away would be the Second Amendment.
Due to interpretation of the Second Amendment. Yeah, when a school shooting takes place in these
At least term regulations for the Supreme Court.
Not too much power that fundamental rights will be at risk or discredited.
all men are created equal. I would ensure that
Women fight exclusion. Finally, our opinions free.
So we would take away the Third Amendment because our military has changed and no one quarters soldiers anymore in their homes.
Hi, my name is Wynn Roney. I'm one of the museum educators here at the National Constitution Center. We are a museum dedicated to the Constitution, and we're chartered by Congress to disseminate information about civics across the United States. I'm standing here in one of our most famous exhibits, Signers Hall. In there is a room of 42 life-size bronze statues of all of the signers of the Constitution. They are all amazing replicas of some of the most famous founding fathers and some other non-famous ones as well that you can definitely learn more about.
Today was amazing. We just saw the show and the cast came out and talked to us about their hopes and their dreams and their career, and even I asked them a question about the Constitution. This was a fantastic event and I hope that we'll be able to do it again.
I'm Anna Skeels. My pronouns are they, them. I'm 20 years old and I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I think that the way that Hamilton presents his history and that it's America then presented by America now is kind of what's missing from how we run as a state and as a union, in that we are following the rules of America then and the people of America then. That's who we're valuing the words and answers of, instead of looking at America now and what we need as people and as citizens of the United States.
I'm James Keenan. I'm from Eagleville, Pennsylvania, and I'm 25. All the variables that came into how this country came to be really was kind of eye-opening, just to see like all the interactions, and it makes me think of how society was socially back then and how stuff was negotiated.
My name is Andrew Slauson V. I'm from Delaware County, Pennsylvania, Chichester, and I am 17 years old. I think that a connection I saw was the amount of division they had within their government and how that outpoured into society. Because our society is as divided as ever. And obviously, when you're forming a new nation, a lot of opinions are going to be divided. And I think that's a really strong connection that they were able to put into that show between the history and current.
Molly Hoffman, I'm 20 years old and I'm from Pittsburgh. It matters who is in the room because the people who are in their room bring their diverse backgrounds and experiences into the policies and words that are written into the original documents. So in my poem, I wrote about how women weren't included in the original Constitution, and that's why there's nothing about women's reproductive health in the Constitution, because they weren't in the room. So my poem, I talked about why it's important for women to be in the room so that they can make those important policies. Skills. My pronouns are they, them. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, but I live in Pittsburgh now. And what I would bring to writing the Constitution, I think is just more voices, especially underprivileged voices, voices from poorer communities, unhoused people, as well as, I think, as many marginalized people as we can get in the room, the better. Because truly, when you look at our Constitution, our legislation, the people who it affects the most are the people with the least privilege, and those are the people who should then be shaping it. So having people of color, having queer people, trans people, people from low-income communities, that is what would be most important to me in shaping what will contribute to our country. Yeah.
If I were in the room during the writing of the Constitution, I would simply bring the following people to the same place that it occurred at the same time: Crispus Attucks, Harriet Tubman, Sacagawea, Michelle Obama, Van Jones, Sonia Sotomayor, and Frank Emmy. They and I would serve as eye-openers to what America's past and future looked like right before the Founding Fathers' eyes. Each of the people I mentioned has unique stories that exemplify the perseverance that they had to embody due to the many shortcomings of the American Constitution. When I say shortcomings, I mean the lack of inclusivity in who the Founding Fathers were referring to during the forming of this foundational document. However, it is no mystery that we the people in 1787 meant land-owning white men, which excluded women of all ethnicities as well as non-white men. Bringing myself and the others into the room during this noting of the document would alter history as we know it by offering a take on each person's experience in America due to their identity. This open discussion would not only alter history and rewrite the path of events that have occurred stemming from injustice since, but all the way until today. We could be decades ahead of where we are today on topics concerning race, gender, religion, and class if the room had welcomed more than land-owning white men.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Keenan. So if I had the chance to write the Constitution, I would take John F. Kennedy with me. And I've always been impressed by his negotiation skills and his overall drive to make society a better place through his presidency. And I would also bring with me my family, and we do it in Philadelphia in a room with a bunch of Italian food and cheesesteaks. And we do it in Philadelphia because that's where the original Constitution was written. So we would take away the Third Amendment because our military has changed and no one quarters soldiers anymore in their homes. And we would add in a new amendment that prevents big money politics. So this would prevent any donations from corporations trying to influence parties, because I think that's something that really needs to be done away with to make a better government.
Hi, my name is Nyla Wildman, and this is what I would have added to the U.S. Constitution if I was in a room where it happened. The U.S. Constitution was written to protect the citizens and its states, to create a government with enough power to act on a very broad level, but not too much power that fundamental rights will be at risk or discredited. The U.S. Constitution impacts my life on a daily basis. It impacts if I have the right to say what I want or the right to have control over my body. On January 22nd, 1973, the Supreme Court issued a decision that was very fundamental to women's rights. That decision was to give us the right to choose whether we wanted an abortion without government restriction. 50 years later, that right was taken away from us. If I was in a room where it happened, I would have added the amendment that gives women the right to abortions. I would give them the respect and privacy they deserve. Because quite honestly, the landmark decision of Roe v. Wade in favor of Jane Roe should not have been up for debate. As a young black girl growing up in the environment I grew up in, being a black girl was a risk in itself. My skin color was a threat, or so people may think. Pregnancy was something that wasn't easy for women of color like me. If I was to conceive in any way, whether it was willingly or not, I would not even have access to affordable, proper health care. Not only that, but a black woman is 3 times more likely to die from causes linked to pregnancy. A black woman simply trying to bring life into this world is a risk to her life in itself. So I asked myself, why should a court composed of mostly white men regulate my reproductive organs? The 14th Amendment states that you cannot deprive anyone of their rights or liberty. So why has that changed? I am not pro-murdering babies, but I am pro-Teresa, who hemorrhaged due to a placental abruption, causing the people she loves most to choose whether of saving her life or her unborn child. I am pro-Jennifer, who lost her virginity as a teen, unbeknownst to her that the condom had broken, and now she has to choose whether to be a teen mom or a teenager. I am pro-London, who had her innocence ripped away from her by someone she thought she could trust, and now her 10-year-old body is not mature enough to bear the consequence of that betrayal, or has the physical ability to carry the seed that was implanted in her by her rapist. A woman has brought all life into this world, so why try to control her life and her ability to willingly give life? As Alexander Hamilton would say, I am not throwing away my shot, and I am definitely not throwing away my rights. This is what I would have liked to add to the U.S. Constitution if I was in a room where it happened. Thank you.
I was in the room. I was in the room in 1776. Before our founding fathers even wrote the Constitution, before that was even a thought, when they declared independence, wrote to Britain that we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I would ensure that that text not only meant white men that owned land. I would ensure that text meant men and women of all races, all backgrounds, that are citizens in America should be equal and are created to be equal. If I was in the room in 1787 when the Constitution was ratified, I would ensure that the Sixth Amendment said and guaranteed that all people had the right to a fair and speedy trial. Not just who the government decides to have a fair and speedy trial. For example, the Scottsboro boys. 9 black young men accused of raping 2 white women. They were innocent, but they weren't given a fair trial. A jury of all white men decided that these 9 black boys, with no evidence whatsoever, should be convicted for a crime that they did not commit. A crime that was only pitted against them because those 2 white women did not want to be caught for their own crime of prostitution. I would ensure that the system would not be put up against us. My race, my brothers, my Hispanic brothers and sisters, my Asian brothers and sisters, I would ensure that everyone got the right to a fair and speedy trial. I would change the Sixth Amendment like that. I would ensure that the 13th Amendment has no loopholes. The 13th Amendment was implemented so that slavery was abolished, except in the instance of crime. That doesn't seem like it's all the way abolished to me. I would ensure that there are no loopholes toward the crime, the heinous crime of slavery. I would ensure that all of my brothers and sisters had the right to lift themselves up by their own bootstraps, as Dr. Martin Luther King once said. I would ensure that we were all given an equal chance to stand and create wealth and love in this country. Thank you.
While intoxicating the world with a false concept of race, while you declared yourself to be great, yet America, you have settled for less. This can be seen in how you interpret the articles and amendments in the Constitution, based on what you protect versus what you don't protect. An example of this, America, is how you protect guns due to interpretation of the Second Amendment. Yet when a school shooting takes place in these United States, you settle for less. With your thoughts and prayers, your no action to protect future generations. But you, America, have disguised yourself to be pro-life, but become pro-choice when it comes to a toddler and the AK-47. Yet again, America, you have settled for less. You have settled for less with silencing the black voice, both in death and suppression. Yet you fought for ideals such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yet when democracy wins, you settled for less by claiming fraud, which is not conceding, but encouraging succeeding. As you can see, America, you are fading. Yet in your dying words, you ask me, what does a constitution means to me?
A woman in the sequel. To change the Constitution, once impossible for me, until women fought exclusion, finally our opinions free. But the control we have over mind, we do not have in body. We must enshrine this right in law, for court cases can be shoddy. So we'll clarify that religious freedom is no excuse to discriminate, and free speech has extremum to those who speak of lies and hate. And the right to bear can be revoked, to clarify the second, for those whose troubled minds are provoked should not have military weapons. I would fight for a green amendment, declaring rights to a healthy earth. Pennsylvanians feel discontentment, but other states feel a dearth. To me, this is most important, something the founders could never foresee. Greenhouse gases are too absorbent, the biggest threat to society. Understanding none of this may pass without democratic reform, so this will be our first task, to ensure government better performed. We'll make voter registration automatic, create polling places nearby. An election holiday is most pragmatic to those hourly workers scraping by. The majority opinion must prevail, no electoral college therefore, nor filibuster's tragic trail of dreams left on the Senate floor. But no matter what we write, our words are subject to review. Today we benefit in hindsight, a future the founders couldn't see true.
Hello, my name is Faith, and if I could change the Constitution, the amendment that I would change would be the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment does state neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for a crime whereof the parties shall have been duly convicted shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Given the opportunity to implement change within the 13th Amendment, I would change the fact that it is fully legal to enforce slavery in regard to punishing someone who's been convicted of a crime. So ultimately, abolishing slavery in every way, shape, form, or fashion in the United States.
Hi there. The prompt that I've chosen to answer is the first one being, who would I bring to the table to write the new Constitution? Where would I meet them, and what would the gathering look like, feel like, and sound like? The answer to that question is Kendrick Lamar, the popular American rapper. I believe he'd be the best person to start or sign or create a new constitution. Reason being that I feel like he is somebody who is very poetic, very creative, and most importantly believes in justice and fair and equality. There's evidence in this because his music oftentimes promotes the progression or the betterment of minorities in the country of America. And I feel like because of that desire to see a better America and equal America for every single citizen, I feel like he could create the best ever constitution because he would do it in a way such that there's much more equality and less division in this country. It would probably feel like a very good and progressive meeting with great music in the background, maybe happening in the studio. I don't know, but yeah, I like Kendrick Lamar, and I think he'd be the best person to do the constitution with.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Kiso, and I'm answering the question, how would you change the Constitution? What amendment would you change or take away? What amendment would you add? If I were to amend the United States Constitution in the year of 2022, I would make sure to repeal and remove concerning provisions, including its ingrained racist policies and language, as well as updating the text to represent modernization as it was written more than 200 years ago. One specific amendment I would revise is the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment states, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, or any place subject to their jurisdiction. This amendment, though prohibits the owning of a person or people after the Civil War ended, purposely leaves loopholes in which provides exemption from incarcerated people in the prison system. According to the Westport Library, prisons incarcerate Black people at more than 5 times the rate of white people and profit off their unpaid or underpaid labor. In spite of the fact that the term slavery might seem like an out-of-date concept, it still in fact targets people of color who are convicted in the hands of the state. I would perhaps not add an amendment, but change the way the Second Amendment is believed to be looked upon today. It states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It is time to change the language of this amendment, as it does not frame the position of the United States today as it did over 200 years ago. The Founding Fathers most likely focus on keeping state militias from being disarmed. However, I am mostly focusing on the radical interpretation of the Second Amendment that puts strong restrictions against gun control, especially with ownership of assault weapons, that the Supreme Court knocks down and which strays us further away from the push of harsher firearm control.
Hi, my name is Angelique. I'm from King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. So if I could change the Constitution or add anything to it, I would definitely add at least term regulations for the Supreme Court. I definitely do think that people that work in the Supreme Court are definitely not cultured enough to know what goes on, especially against young kids like me, 20 years old, other millennials and things like that. And they just don't really know how the real world works. So I think that they should definitely have at least a time limit, just like the president. I don't see how the president has one, but not Supreme Court doesn't really make sense to me. But I would definitely change that. Like I said, it's just not realistic, and they all need to switch it up. We need some new people. We need some new faces. So yeah, that's what I'd say. But thank you.